everybody, welcome on back to the AnKorage where everything is awesome, and I've got some little things. Who wants a piece of pie? Who wants a piece of pie? I like apple pie myself, but we are going to be dealing with not actual edible pie. We're going to be working with the raspberry pie. That would be this guy right here. Now, the project, for me, it's already done. It's already up and running. However, I wanted to kind of bring you along and kind of tell you about it, stuff like that. Yeah, this looks like a raspberry pie. No, it doesn't. It looks like a box. However, I can show you a raspberry pie and what I've done with them over the course of what's going on, but we'll come back to this one in a minute. Alright, so what I've got here is I've got an actual raspberry pie. So this is what it is. This is a spare of mine, and the only reason why I'm not using it currently is because its power port, which is a micro USB, its surface mount, which is fine in itself. However, it's loosened to the point where it needs to be replaced. I've got the replacement. I've got solder. I just don't have any flux. Otherwise, I would have that replaced right quick and it'd still be in use. However, that's not the case. But this is essentially what a Raspberry Pi is. It's a single board computer, project board, and it's about the size of a credit card. I can't give you the exact dimensions, but you hold it up to it, to one of those, and it's the same. And there we go. And in my Raspberry Pi realm, history with them, this is my first one right here. It is a Raspberry Pi 2, and it's in a case that I had bought for it. And I'm all into the natural way of things as far as like woods and things like that for decoration. So you can see that it's, an actual piece of wood. I think this is walnut. Walnut is my favorite, because, and my motif in here is, mid-century modern, 70s. You can see that with my furniture and everything. So there we go. So there's that. And this unit is my very first Raspberry Pi. It was a Raspberry Pi 2 that I had purchased at the beginning of 2017. And I was playing Minecraft at the time, and for years I was curious about running my own server in my home. And it goes back to 12, 13, something like that. And then I had been seeing these things about Raspberry Pi projects and stuff like that you can do with these things. And I went out and I saw, hey, why not host your own Minecraft server using a Raspberry Pi? And I'm like, that makes a great introductory project for me in getting into these. Just to tinker around, stuff like that. And I discovered a project specifically for the Raspberry Pi called Craft Bean. So basically, the craft of Minecraft and the bean from Raspbian or Debian, because Raspbian is derived off of Debian, and so you get Craft Bean. So the individual that was doing this work was over in Denmark, and I got in touch with the guy, and got it going. And so I kind of took on the realm of a user tester. I basically, took it as that user tester. So I kind of took it as from a QA standpoint from my work. And so, I'd go in, I'd test out the software, and what the object was to take this and create a whole new operating system using Raspbian as the base. And then he developed an operating system that sits on top of that, and it uses a web panel So basically, you could go to the address for this, and you'd be brought into Craftbean itself. It is a server, and it's also a world manager, things of that sort. So you could do all kinds of stuff with it. I've got videos that talk about that. I should check to see if they're actually out there or not. I don't see why they wouldn't be, but they might be. It's the original iteration of Craft Quest, yes, and which is now regarding crafts of sorts that I participate in. But you know, and I was doing that from 17 to 19, and I was helping him out, and I was actually more or less given the software, and after it released and stuff like that, and because I had to test it, so I had to be given the software. But after it was released and such, I actually paid for it, and you know, it was cheap. It was like $5. So over in Europe it would be like €5. So $5. And so, you know, I'm like, hey, this is really great. You deserve the income. Here you go. How popular it was, I don't think it was overly popular, because sometime after it was released, stuff like that, he stopped development on it. And he didn't, you know, not necessarily support, but he might have, because everything was running fine over here. And you know, I had this guy, but this is my testing unit. So what did I do with this? Well, I continued to use it. However, after it went into production and release, I created multiple servers using additional Raspberry Pis, which are the ones that are up on the shelf. And so I had up to 3 worlds, maybe 4, or 3 servers, maybe 4 servers. But I'd left one off because I actually I was part of another project called Nextcloud Pi, and I actually had my own Nextcloud server on the Pi, and it was geared specifically for the Pi, and it still exists. It's still out there, but that's a different video topic altogether. But so I'm not using that anymore. I'm off with this route now. So using their Nextcloud instance, and because it's a lot easier for me that way. But this guy, you know, his name is Daniel Jorgensen, and apparently I was the first American to get his pronunciation of his name right. J's are pronounced as Y's, so Jorgensen. And so the project went stale, and he wasn't developing it, he wasn't supporting it, and stuff like that. And then he finally decided in 21, probably about Marchish, to end it. And so he did one final thing, an end of life release, and released it out, and everybody got that version. I have it here, and that's you know, and that's what I built onto here. I call it the Leif Erikson edition, and so this currently has Craftbean on it. It's right here on this little micro SD card. So, you know, of course, with it just being on the card, that opens this up for other projects. But I'm like, this thing was my introduction to the Raspberry Pi and my first Raspberry Pi project. I'm just going to leave it out, and I'm going to keep it on display. So I'm sitting right next to my new shelves, and I keep it on display up there. And you can see it when you happen to see me sitting at my desk, and you can see it on the shelves. It's right in front of the base of the arcade cabinet. So there we go. Excuse me. But yeah. So that's these little guys. And here's what it looks like in a case. So there we go. So why don't we go back up there and to the others, and we'll talk about that. and how I put it together, and what I've got going on with those right now. Okay, so we are back up at the shelves, and here's what the Raspberry Pis are now. So these are this is a Raspberry Pi cluster. This contains 4 units. However, they're not interlinked with each other. They're not daisy chained with each other to have the processing power of a single unit. They are this can hold 4 Raspberry Pis. So I've got 4 in there. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You just count by these tops here. These are the power cords. So they have names. So we've got CoWoS, Aurora, Uppsala, and Geffen. How did I come up with those names? CoWoS is a county in New Hampshire, which is the northernmost, butt up against Quebec, Canada. Aurora, that was the original name that I gave that first unit, my testing unit for craft beer, and it just carried on. This is the 4th iteration of Aurora, essentially, because it's not exactly the 4th card, but it's the 4th installation, and so there we go. And then we have Uppsala. Well, I have a deep appreciation to the Old Norse from the Viking Age, so I have that one named as Uppsala. And then I have Geffen. Geffen is the name of an Old Norse goddess. So that's a she. So that's a she. Uppsala is an it. CoWoS is an it, and Aurora, it can be either an it or it can be a she. I call it a she just because I think it's great as a name. So there we go. And then down below, I have 2 hard drives. I've got one for Aurora and one for Uppsala. Excuse me. Aurora's drive is a solid state drive, so an SSD, and the Uppsala drive is an actual mechanical hard drive. So, and those 2 are file servers today. Years back, they were Minecraft servers. So, with Aurora, Uppsala, Geffen wasn't. And then of course I had the 4th one, which was CoWoS, or ended up becoming CoWoS at some point. So I had 3 Minecraft servers on Aurora, Uppsala, and Geffen, and then I had CoWoS as extra. And that is the one that I did my Nextcloud Pi instance when I was helping them out. I was actually in charge of their social networking side on Mastodon back then. But after I had encountered an issue where I couldn't continue with the project, I told them, and I let them know, and I stopped using it, and I got rid of the password to get into it. And apparently somebody there forgot about it too, because years later I was asked for it, and I'm like, I don't have any information, I forgot it, and I don't do this anymore. And I told them about it. So if you need help with it, contact so and so, or speak to them. And of course, I didn't have the direct message or the DM from the guy who originated it before, originated the account. So I'm just like, yeah, if anything, go out onto Telegram, because that's where they did their chat, and kick off a password reset. It'll get his attention. At least it should, in my eyes, my experience. However, so I got these. So I've had 2 file servers there, and I have a relative that I'm like, hey, follow my FileQuest playlist, and you can create one yourself. And I gave her one of my spares, and I said, here, just follow those directions and you should be all right. And I'm here if you need. And I think we're at the point where I'm actually gonna have to go up there and generate up my, and set it all up myself. It's about an hour drive. Whatever. It gets me out of the house. Gets me out of this place. But there we go. So I had those two going, and then CoWoS and Gefion weren't being run. So, and as far as like, what can I do as an extra project for these? Well, let's see. Well, I had proactively gone through my browsers, and I've got uBlock Origin and stuff like that because of ads, internet ads, and I don't really want to see them. So, and I had known about this one thing here called Pi-hole, where you could actually have a Raspberry Pi become an actual ad blocker at the network level. So, and I thought about it, and then I didn't, and then I didn't more, and then I didn't even more and more, and then finally decided to go ahead and do it, so that I can have something for Gefion specifically to do. Why Gefion? Well, CoWoS happens to be a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. The other three are all Raspberry Pi 3s. That's it. So CoWoS has a little extra to it. So I want to save that one for something special. Of course, it would have to be strictly in the unit with no attachments. I mean, I do have a little space on the shelf for something extra, an extra drive or something. I don't know. I have to figure it out. I'll take suggestions down below, but I can't attach anything that takes up more space than what I've got right here. So the space that you see here is all I've got. So the less amount of space being taken up, the better. So how did I actually get this actually attached? Well, a couple things I needed. Well, I had the power cord already, so I set that up. I connected it to the PDU down at the bottom that's hanging in the back, and so I attached that. I got I attached a network cable to it, dropped it out back and everything, and I'm going to take a moment and kind of reconfigure the camera, and we'll talk about this a little more. Okay, see if I can poke my head in here. Hi, how you doing? All right, so we are sitting at my desk. This is my second monitor. It's to the right of my main monitor, so I've got a dual screen setup going on. So you can see the Raspberry Pis right here. And so if you look back there, where are the cables? There are none. That's the trick. That's because they're hidden. So what you see right here, that is a presentation board. I went to the local dollar store, and for $1.29, I got a big piece of presentation board. I brought it home. I painted it, and it curved. So it went whoa, like that. So I'm like, yeah, that's not acceptable. So I painted the other side, and the paint, when it dried, actually somewhat straightened it back out. So then I took it to my coffee table, and I laid it out, and I put weights down over like a day, and it flattened it right back out. So cool. So I cut 3 slits in it, and I shoved it up in here, and I'm using these brackets to hold them. So according to this view, you can't see the edge, although the edge is right here. If I can get my finger. It's pretty much right there. So that's where I've got the cables hidden. Cable management, there you go. As far as actually strapping them together with cable ties, can't really do that. But, they're just hanging back there. And they go down, and they meet up with, I bought a special router with, of course, it's got 4 ports on it, so it's a 4-port switch. And that's just to clarify that part. It's actually a switch, not a router. The router is up here. The switch is 4 ports specific for that unit. So all of those pipe into that. And although I don't think I have, let me feel. Oh, I do have one. There is a cable in CoOS, and it's plugged into the switch. However, I don't have a power cable connected to it because I have no purpose for it right now. So it's just sitting there. So the other 3 are being used. And so I've got 2 file servers on Aurora and Uppsala. Gefion is my Pi-hole instance. So, and that's blocking all internet ads at the network level. So, I wasn't going to show you, me actually putting it all together, stuff like that, because it dealt with me having to get behind the desk and playing with cords and stuff like that. And there's no space in the crevices to stick a camera and stuff like that for me, because I'm just doing these videos all by myself, and it's just very, very difficult. And I can't go in there, and I need both of my hands. So I'm not going to go in there with a cell phone and do everything one-handed like everybody else does. And, so I just went ahead and I got all the physical work done and everything like that. But I can actually show you how I've got the computer set up. So why don't we look at that? Okay, so here we've got the setup. You can see I've got dual screens going on. Now here's why I'm dual screen. I had this one here already, and I had this one in another room to use as a secondary streaming station. And then I got to the point where Dawn of Strike moved out, and I didn't have to have it sitting there and use it in that respect anymore. So I'm like, why don't I just bring it out here, take the printer, I barely use it, I'll take it off, I'll put it away, it's under the futon, and I'll just pull it out whenever I need to use it. And that'll open up the space for a second monitor, and so here we go. So how do I use Pi-hole? Alright, so in this I would actually fire up Firefox, and here's my Firefox instance on monitor 1, and then the very first bookmark on my bookmark bar is for Pi-hole. So I just click on that and I'm brought straight into it. So as you can see it here. So, and it's very intuitive. It's very good. This is just the dashboard. So, and I can see that total queries over the last 24 hours, absolutely none. And that's fantastic. And that's mainly because when I'm out, I've got ad blocking in the browser as it is already, so it's going to block everything to begin with. Pi-hole doesn't have to do it. There is someone else in this household. So by seeing that there's no blockages going on, no blocking going on whatsoever, that means that there aren't any sites that have ads in them are actually being navigated to, because there's nothing being blocked. And I think that's excellent. So I'm like, well, then what's the point of having this if I'm not going to be using it? Well, you're using it even when you're not using it. So what I did is decide that I don't want to take it off. It's good to have it on there and running regardless. And I'll just make maintenance of it just part of my normal maintenance. And it's anything extra. How do I do maintenance? Well, this is the web GUI, so, and that's all nice and pretty. But how else do I get into it? Well, I can get into all of these Pis using SSH or secure shell connections in using the terminal. And this is Linux Mint on this side. This whole thing is Linux Mint, and this is on Solaria. If you can read that, I don't know if you can, but so the machine is down here, and then to the right of that is a Windows box. So when I actually switch this over, it's not on right now. It's not booted, so I have a KVM switch to switch this monitor between the two computers. So this one always stays on to Solaria. So I can put stuff over here, such as my matrix chat. I can put that over here when I'm doing stuff over here in Windows. So I can kind of keep an eye on what's going on over there. I'm a moderator over there, so I keep a track of everything on there. And if I see anything fishy, then I can just KVM switch it back over and do my thing. So there we go. People have to behave in a decent manner. So anyhow. So back to the SSH. So I have down here, this is it's from Windows 7 days, you know, from where I'm calling it. This is my quick launch area. It's a panel. It's a launch panel, and it's about yay wide, and it's fully loaded with all kinds of stuff. So I've got 3 SSH connections on here. So I've got this one. This is Aurora. I've got this one, which is Uppsala. And then my third one is my latest, which is for Gefion. And so here's Gefion, and I'll put her over here. So there we go. And I've got custom custom bash RC files for when it boots. And so I've got some ASCII text, ASCII art here. Aurora, Uppsala, Gefion. Nice and easy. And then some other little stupid data down here. So it clearly identifies it. Raspberry Pi file server, Pi-hole. So what do I do for maintenance? Well, I use a package manager called Nala. My associate Dan on Switch to Linux, he calls it Nala, but it's Nala, like Lion King Nala. So there you go. So what I do is I use Nala to update the repository packages. In other words, to update the catalog of all the software on the Raspberry Pis. So, and I do that. It's got a memory. All these sessions have a memory of what I've typed before. So I just tap up until, let's see, we'll use update. What the hey? I'll go Nala update. I'll do the same thing over here. And then I'll do the same thing over here. So I'm not actually upgrading any of the software in here. I'm just going out and just updating the catalogs in the units of software that can be upgraded. So that's going through. I'll give that a second. Okay, it's all done, and got everything here, and they're all, let's see, Aurora and Uppsala, because they've got the same installation and setups and stuff like that. They're both telling me that there's 40 packages that can be upgraded, and I can do gives me a command that I can use to actually list out all of the packages or pieces of software that can be upgraded. Over on Gefion, there's 32. Well, that's because it's Pi-hole. It's a different software setup, so it can do 32 packages. I'm not going to show you the actual update process or the upgrading process because it's not the day for upgrading. That's actually going to be tomorrow. So I'm filming this on a Wednesday. It's going to be tomorrow, the Thursday, that I perform the actual upgrades. So this is just to show you where I go to perform my maintenance. And there we go. Other things that I can do is not so much for Pi-hole as for the other two. For the file servers is actually making a copy of all of the data. And I have cold storage data storage areas in Solaria that I take a copy of both drives and stick it into, so that if either of these go kaplooey, then I still have the data. And I've got a couple of additional hard drives and I think 1 or 2 SSDs that 500 gigs that I can use to restore that stuff. Once a year, I will actually take an image of the drives. So basically what that means is taking an image, taking a picture, basically copying the actual micro SD cards. And I put that into one of the cold storage drives. So if the Raspberry Pi itself on the micro SD cards goes corrupt or broken, then I can just grab a copy, reburn it, stick it in there, run my upgrades or updates, and I'm good to go. And I'm back to where I was, and without any problems. Excuse me. A guy that I know, it's like I've said before, I help out Switch to Linux on YouTube. Tom and the Kitties, and he uses additional micro SD cards. He basically clones a micro SD card and keeps a spare, so that if anything goes wrong with it, he can just take that one out, put the other one in, and just continue. And it's a great thing there. I've got additional SD cards myself, but I don't have many, and they're of smaller sizes. These 4 are 16 gigs each, and I just figure 16 is, for what I do, is, it's more than enough than what I need. I could probably do it with 8, but 16 these days is easier to get, a lot easier to get, and I can keep those. And if I can dig it out here, I bought a pack of 4. One's being used right now in Geffen. The other 2 are not. Oops, excuse me. I dropped it. And of course it went underneath the computer. Because, why should anything be easy with what I do? And to make it difficult, throw it under something. Yep, there you go. Gravity is going to go, okay, thank you very much. And here, I'm just going to take it down here, and I'm going to just shove it that way. So you have to work harder to retrieve it. Anyhow, so there we go. All right, so I'll close out of these. I don't need to use these today, so there we go. So, how do you like my dual screen setup? Yeah, it's common, but not overly common. Most people only have one screen. I've used one screen for years. And when I got my QA position at my old work, I had 2 screens, not like this. I had one monitor, and then I had my laptop, my assigned laptop. So I used my laptop screen, and I used the actual monitor to extend the desktop. I didn't have 2 actual monitors connected. Now I do. I feel special. And I feel SMRT, because I'm smart. So there we go. Alright, so there we go. That is my Pi-hole installation, and a little bit of history about my use with Raspberry Pis and stuff like that. Yeah, I still have it right here. I haven't put these away yet. So, yeah. The size of a credit card. Oh, really? You want me to actually physically show you those? Well, then I'm going to have to go dig one out, so I'll be right back. Alright, so here you go. Here's a Groupon card. It's a gift card. Not a credit card, but it's the exact same dimensions. So like that. So let's take my Raspberry Pi 3, my spare, and get a good look at it. There you go. So this is the underside. So I'm going to take my Groupon card, put it right there, and let's see, let's do that, and we'll hold it up. There you go. See? It's the same size. And it's kind of funny because somebody else just came out with a card saying that it's the smallest one out there, and that's no bigger than a credit card, and it uses RISC-V. It's an architecture design kind of thing, and said that it's the smallest. I don't think so. And we've talked about it on Matrix and stuff, and Tom actually talks about it on Switch to Linux. He talked about it last week on the weekly news roundup, I think it was. So I moderate the chats for that. So anyhow, See them up there together? Here they are, together. Da-da-da! There you are. So, got my first one. Got a spare that I got later. There it is. Will I use this one again? I don't know. I got to get that port fixed. So, there we go. So, we're going to call it there. So, thank you very much for coming along. And we will talk to you later. And if you excuse me 1 second, I need something. And it's right there. I've got it. So, there we go. Sorry. So, there we are. So, thank you very much. Come on back in the future for additional videos. And we'll see what else I've got going on. So, thank you very much. Skál. Drink to victory.